Button. Welcome, everybody. This is our June wonderful Cyversity virtual event. And today we are so excited. Today we are celebrating our Pride and Juneteenth event. So, super excited to have everybody with us. Super excited to have our guests and our panelists talk with us about their backgrounds and information that they're sharing with us today. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. First, before we get started and jump into our programming and talk to our panelists, I want to tell you a little bit and remind you of the background of Cyversity, who we are and what we stand for. So, if you see Cyversity, we focus on diversifying, educating, and empowering others. Let me just So some of the resources that we provide as an organization are, hold on one second, let me go back because I think I've skipped over our mission. My apologies there. I was clicking so fast. Our mission is to achieve the consistent representation of women and traditionally underrepresented minorities and veterans in the cybersecurity industry through our programs that are designed to diversify, educate, and empower others. We do believe that diversity and diversity of thought and all of the talent is what matters in the fight to combat the evolving cybersecurity risks that we face today and into the future. So, really, this is such an important organization to me and all of the folks that I know who are joining. And what you're doing to help enrich the cybersecurity industry is so incredibly important. So continue to show up and support organizations like Cyversity because we really, really need your support. A couple of things I want to share with you are some of those resources that we provide. We have chapters across the organization, across the globe right now, and we have 11 chapters, to be honest with you. And you'll see them in some of the major metropolitan locations like the Bay Area, New York, Dallas and Austin, Denver, and several other places, the Twin Cities. But you don't have to be near a chapter to actually be a member. You can join our membership and still take part and be able to access all of the wonderful resources. We also have mentorship that we provide where we help to facilitate a 16-week mentorship program, and we do matches that are one-on-one with dedicated leaders. We also offer scholarships so that we can provide either cash or applied towards education and our cybersecurity training offerings that help people grow their skills so that they can be stronger and stronger players in the industry. Additionally, we host events like we're doing today where you have the opportunity to network. And I did say that on purpose because I want you to make sure you drop your LinkedIn in the chat. Make sure you're networking with someone on this call. Make sure you're networking when you come to some of our in-person events because that's critically important to your career and your ability to stay connected to folks in the industry. Attend as many events as you can because that's going to make you a stronger member and a stronger player in the industry. Also, there's on-demand trainings that you can take and take advantage of as a member. And then the networking, of course, the networking, which is going to connect you to people not only who are looking for employment, but people who have had many, many, many years of experience in the field who can help you in your career journey. So don't forget, these are super important resources that we want you to take advantage of. If you're a member, great, continue to lean into those resources. If you haven't really become a member yet, but you're thinking about it, think about these resources and what they can do for you in your career. So today, our wonderful panelists, I'm super excited because I can't wait to hear both from Ashley Sequeira and Hakeem Oseni, who are here as our special guest, representing our two areas of Pride and Juneteenth. And so I'm super excited to hear about their backgrounds and have them share lots of great information with each of you today. So what I first would like to do is have you all introduce yourselves. But before I do that, I didn't do that myself. So let me stop for a moment. My name is Rolanda Small, and I am one of the leads of the Bay Area Cyversity chapter. I also have just recently taken on the position of becoming the executive director of Cyversity, which I'm super excited and pumped about because I just really stand on everything that this organization does. So I want you to know that I'm here for you and I really do stand behind this organization. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to our panelists to start to begin to introduce themselves. And I'll start with you, Ashley. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So good to see everybody. I'm Ashley Sequeira. If you recently watched the Google cybersecurity videos, hi, yes, that's actually me. I have a pretty interesting background. I started off in the military as a trumpet player and pivoted to IT. And then, of course, like many people, was underemployed when I got out of the military. Again, I was working help desk, desktop support, that kind of stuff, but I really wanted to get into cybersecurity. And Palo Alto Networks, many, many years ago, was offering a really cool veterans training class. And I went to the class and got hired out of the class, which is still a crazy story to even tell. Since then, I spent about 5 years at Palo Alto where I met Rolanda and her amazing self. And I went to Google for a little bit. And now I'm one of the lead researchers at an internet search company called Censys, hence the background. But it's crazy. I'm the lead now for B-Sides Las Vegas for their security function. I'm one of the volunteers at DEF CON, so you'll see me in the red shirt running around if you go to DEF CON, and I've really just gotten a chance to thrive. As I mentioned, I'm a veteran. I'm also queer. I have a partner. We live in New Mexico. I am originally from the Bay, and I miss all of you so much, but I live in the desert now. So it's great to be here today. Thanks, Rolanda.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ashley. Thanks. And I'm going to turn it over now to Hakeem. Please introduce yourself and give a little bit of history and background.
Well, first of all, Rolanda, thanks for organizing this and congratulations on your new position. Super excited. And Ashley, thank you for your service. What an inspiring story. My name's Hakeem Oseni. I'm also one of the leads of the Bay Area chapter of Cyversity. I am a card carrying gay Black man, proud of it. Um, During the day, I work as the manager of cybersecurity at Salesforce. At night, I do a lot of volunteer activities, a lot of cybersecurity activities. I'm also on the board of another nonprofit called Jewish Vocational Services here in San Francisco. They offer a bunch of training. We work very closely with the Office of Economic and Workforce Development, and we have a bunch of trainings in healthcare and non-cybersecurities, but they also do have a cybersecurity track. I'm very passionate about supporting community, non-traditional pathways to help people get gainfully employed in the Bay Area. Been in the IT game for about 20 years. And I actually was introduced to cybersecurity after I took a Salesforce administrator training course at JVS in 2015, and a job career coach mentor hooked me up with a manager at Wells Fargo, and my first job was working on an IT cybersecurity encryption project at Wells Fargo, encrypting data in Salesforce orgs. I spent 6 years there, and then I actually went to it was called ICMCP there, but a Cyversity event, probably at Palo Alto Networks. Met a bunch of very cool people, very inspiring people, people who were more senior than I even knew. So when I looked at the LinkedIn, I was like, oh, wow, that was that person. Oh, wow, that was that person. And then really leaned into the community and the events. And I decided to go back to school and do a second master's at UC Berkeley. They have a very great cybersecurity program at night. Met a bunch of people there and got the job at Salesforce. So that's me. Live in San Francisco, use the pronouns he, him, married, got 2 dogs.
Just a little bit extra there. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, Hakeem. Thank you so much for that great introduction. You both have such incredible backgrounds, and this is one of the reasons I wanted you here today. I feel like this is so important, and I think it's so great that we get to have you as our honorary speakers for our Juneteenth and Pride discussion. So with that, I want to ask you, what does Juneteenth or Pride or both mean to you, and something that you can offer as a celebratory gesture of advice that you could offer to our audience here? So let's see. Why don't I start with you, Ashley?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because something that didn't really hit me until, there was a lot more open and clear celebrations about Juneteenth is how much of our own history we didn't know to even know that Juneteenth was a day of celebration. And it's been really, really cool to get to kind of spearhead that because obviously a lot of us probably exist in spaces where there's not a lot of people that look like us or we're the only person who looks like us. And so we get a chance to be ambassadors to really try to build bridges because it's easy for folks that aren't in those underrepresented groups to kind of dismiss the things that we go through both with Pride and Juneteenth. Um, Pride, especially, I mean, I wasn't even really out until my 30s and I'm 36 now. So, like, it's been really empowering to see other, queer leaders in the space and see other, out and proud Black folk because there's a lot of homophobia that a lot of us have experienced in our own community. So to get to be here and be reaffirmed and get to proudly say like, hey, I'm queer and I get to be really good at like stuff on the computer. That's kind of my favorite thing. And so it's just been so eye-opening since I even came to cyber, let alone the last 10 years, as far as just again meeting great people, getting to be the technical expert in the room. And it's not as much about the labels as more as it's just a part of who you are and you get to just be that.
Yeah. So, so, so true. So true. And Hakeem, lean in a little bit here. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what it means for, what does Juneteenth and Pride mean to you? And just offer us a little bit of that celebratory advice.
So I'm the child of immigrants from Africa. And it's interesting because during Black History Month and also Juneteenth, all of a sudden you get inundated with all these histories and these deep stories and these personal stories. And there's a lot of different struggles, but still struggles in countries that were colonized, and the history of American and slavery and freedom, and that journey to economic freedom. And it's still a journey, right? So it's a good time to reflect and also reflect on like your personal journey, like where you started from, where you are now, and where you want to go, right? So and in looking back at history and other people's history, you remember how resilient you actually are. It's a nice reminder of how fierce you are and how strong you are, and you can be anything you want to be if you really try at it. So Juneteenth is another reminder of who I am. And I take that very personally, right? Because I try to entrench it into my day. I try to educate people around me, and I'm like, hey, you also have these tools. You just have to do a plan and figure it out. But never say never, never say I can't. Like always be like, there's a path to it. Um, and the pride thing is interesting. When I was young and I lived in Buffalo and I was hitting the clubs in New York City and running the streets of San Francisco, and I was a fierce ruling diva, and I was last person on the dance floor. Like things are different as I've aged. Um, uh, I look at other marginalized people in the queer community, especially the trans, and uh, I try to figure out institutional ways to try and help and support people who are in those communities and reach out and make sure that our programs from Cyversity or any other nonprofit are reaching these communities, because there's still people who are on the fringes of society who struggle, who don't have support systems, who don't know who they can talk to or call before an interview, or if things aren't working out, if they need to run somewhere or go to another state for whatever reason. So I really try to, during this month, remember the importance of the nonprofit work I do, and also to get the word out of nonprofits like ours or communities like ours that offer resources or referrals for people who are from diverse backgrounds, or especially people who are being marginalized.
Yeah, yeah, you're spot on. There's a lot of um, folks that are still out there, are still struggling. And I really appreciate that advice, because I think that sometimes we forget we live, especially the Bay Area is a lot more progressive than some areas. And so we forget sometimes. And it's a good thing that Cyversity is at this point global and growing, because we are able to touch more people and reach them, and let them know that there are resources and support here, that they can leverage and lean into. So really appreciate that advice so much so, and thank you to Ashley for sharing. I know it's sometimes harder when you share personal information, and so I really do appreciate that. Has there been a time in your career where being Black or LGBTQIA plus has impacted your career? Share with us a bit of a story, or anything, an incident may where something may have happened where it has impacted your career. Hakeem, would you like to go first?
I was like, maybe Ashley first. Trying to think about that.
Do you
Um,
want to think about
no,
it?
no, let me play it back to you. So,
Okay.
um, I started working, I think, at like 17. So I've always hustled, and I came out super young. So, I've been fortunate enough to find comfortable landing places and very accepting people. I started off as a journalist, then I got a job at AOL. Um, then I lived in Manhattan, worked at Wall Street. So, and there were always, I think I've always found my employee resource groups or my close group of friends, to where even if work was a struggle, my social life made up for it. Right. Or if my social life was down and out because I was living overseas, then work had something that kept me plugged in. So I've been fortunate enough to not really have to struggle or face anything at work. I think, and I'll go to this much. Sometimes I've been asked to uh, tone it down a bit, right? So for various reasons, and I think sometimes I probably self censor myself, right? Depending, or code switch, right? Um, uh, but again, I'm reminded, to be proud and just be yourself. And fortunately, I work at a company that values diversity and encourages you to bring your real self to work. And you can see people at all levels of the company who are themselves. And I find that when I am myself, I'm actually more effective as a leader, right? So but I'm older and wiser, but I wasn't this way when I was just starting in my career. Right. So, but now I am. I hope that answers the question.
No, it does. It does. And piggyback a little bit on that. I want you to tease that out a little bit more. We're going to come jumped over to you in a minute, Ashley. But Hakeem, have you noticed, even though you didn't experience, did you ever notice any others in the organization or in cybersecurity in general, where being Black and or being LGBTQIA plus was a problem?
I've mentored a lot of people who are like me, um, and I think just being out and present and yourself in the community uh, makes a lot of people comfortable who may not be. So, and it's important that we are present and we acknowledge who we are.
Beautiful.
I'll leave it there.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you. Ashley, jump in. I know
Man,
you've got some good stuff to be here.
man, wait, I mean, how long do I have? Because man, when I
Okay.
got some stories for y'all. So, it's funny. Hakeem touches on like the resilience piece, and I really think that has been tested in me the last few years, especially. And I'm not going to name the company, but my very first systems engineer slash sales engineer job, I was the only SE that looked like me in all of North America, and it was an org that was about 400 people, and it was just me. I had no peers that looked like me. I had no managers that looked like me. And I get weird, like backhanded compliments from people. They would say things like, "Oh, I'm surprised you know so much," or, "I didn't expect anything out of you. You really surprised me." And of course, I'm sitting there thinking, like, if I looked like you, would you have said that to me? You know, or would the default have been that you would have expected that I would know things? And so I always have to challenge that. I mean, if you, for those of you just connected with me on LinkedIn, you will get very annoyed with me constantly publishing the certs, the degrees, all of the stuff that I'm always having to pursue just to get the phone call back, let alone get an interview. And again, I have lots of stories, but I'm used to being the only one. I mean, even at my current company, I am the only woman SE. I am the only woman and only person on the team who looks like me right now. But because I pretty much, I've learned now to just come to the table and stand on the things that I say and really put forth a more confident version and less imposter syndrome infected version of myself, and it really shows in the thriving that I've done over the last couple of years. But my goodness, like, women already have to deal with so much, and then being Black, being queer, even being a veteran, like the company after the first one I talked about, I got bullied for being a veteran. Like, I had never in my life encountered that. And my manager, they were not anything having to do with the military. They didn't understand how I was able to operate and just accomplish things that would be impossible, or seem impossible. And I get it done anyway, and it scares people. And so, our resilience and the things that we have to internalize and put up with, we learn how to cope, maybe sometimes not in the best ways. But one of the things that I've taken from that, knowing that, if I'm getting treated this way, how are other people that look like me and the people who don't look like me getting treated if they're different in some way? And so I've worked very, very hard to, again, my phone is open to anyone that needs to call. My LinkedIn is open. I've jumped on the phone, Zoom, whatever. And even the team that I run at some of the nonprofits, including Cyversity, that I work with, I make it a point to make sure, like, hey, be you, but get the work done. And when you come forward like that, the characteristics that make us us are a strength and not something that people can use to put you down. But your leadership has to really believe that and stand on that message. And so now that I'm finally getting some chances to put my, my little big toe into leadership now, I'm making it a point to make sure that people understand. I'm like, we're not going to treat each other like crap because we're different from each other. We're going to always treat each other with respect, regardless of our differences. And so by creating that culture, folks who are trans, folks who are, again, in these other, even more marginalized communities feel comfortable working with me and being on my team. But then the people who aren't comfortable see us thriving and they're like, well, wait, what are they doing over there? And it's like we're helping each other. We're making space for one another so we can just be our authentic selves and make sure that we deliver what you've asked. And people can't really combat that. Like, what are they going to argue with? So yeah, it's just I've learned a lot, and I'm sure Rolanda, you're over there listening, you're like, damn, Ashley's like grown up so much because I had to. But I want to tell everyone on this call, like, if it's not a good fit, it is okay to leave. That is the other lesson I have learned. Sometimes it's not the right fit and you don't need to force it. If people will not accept you for you, find a home that will.
Yeah, that's great advice. It's great advice. It reminds me of a story. I remember when we were coming back to the offices after COVID, and I recall a gentleman calling me, a Black gentleman, and he said, "I'm so scared." He was like, "I've been killing the numbers, my quota, I've been killing it, but I'm scared that when I have to go back in person, my numbers are going to fall off." And I said, "Excuse me, what?" He was like, "No, since I've been able to hide behind the camera, it's been great. No one knows that I'm this big Black guy, and I have been selling like nobody's business." And I was like, wow, to think that this person is so uncomfortable and so, having to think about the fact that they have to come into the office or show up to customers again. It's just one of those things that sometimes I don't think people even think about that other people are dealing with. So I appreciate that great advice that you both shared. Deliver, support each other, show up as a leader when you have those leadership opportunities to make sure that you're making space for people to be whole at work. So great, and really do appreciate that. Share with us as a group a little bit about who are some of the people who inspired you to get where you are today in cybersecurity and carry you through the changes and the disruption to, DEI that we're currently facing. Ashley, you want to start or you want Hakeem?
Sure.
You want to start
Yeah,
there?
yeah, yeah. I mean, besides you, Rolanda, I mean, I remember being just young and just not understanding how to navigate like just the corporate world and coming from the military especially, like you're used to these big orgs, you're used to like a colonel could be yelling at you as like a baby private, but if you have it in black and white they have to let it go because you have the reg, you always had that to stand on, and that's not true in corporate America. Like it could be in the handbook, but people are going to pick and choose when they want to let things apply and things like that. So Rolanda, you've inspired me because I've seen your strength and your power in dealing with a lot of the microaggressive crap that we've all had to deal with, and you still are just like off the back like water, like a duck, right? It doesn't even phase you, and that's inspiring to me. I think the other person specifically for where I've gotten to now within cyber, I have a very, very good friend of mine who's also a veteran, a white guy of all people, but he is a former three-letter agency like analyst and things like that, and he acknowledges and validates the things that he has seen me go through. He spoke up for me very early in my career when I didn't know how to speak up for myself because of a very not good situation. And to this day, he's always pushing me. He's like, "Are you going to do your next cert? Like, what's next? What's next? Like, I want you to keep growing. I want you to keep thriving." And to be an SME in 8 years in such a competitive field is night and day compared to where I thought I could be. Last person, my late grandfather, who was a civil rights leader down in Statesboro, Georgia, good old Georgia, and helped run the Klan out in the 80s. And so I always just go back to that and think about like, man, you went right up to Klan members and told them what for. And to have that level of bravery in a time when Black men born in the 30s were lucky to make it to their 20th birthday, let alone to get to live to be 92. My goodness, like we should all be so lucky.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm glad to hear that you've had mentors and leaders above you and around you and centered around you that have helped you and supported you during these times. Do you think that there's anything that you're going to need different as times are changing right now?
One of the things that's been really fascinating is that when you go to a company that's a high performing company and they actually do let people show up, it's not that hard of an adjustment, even when we're gutting things like DEI, because of course internally in the day to day, we've all still got each other's backs. And of course it's scary right now. Like nobody wants to be a target, but at the same time, there's still ways that we can speak our truth and lean into our power and still thrive. And so I honestly have just leaned into being myself. I have not changed a thing, except I'm just a little more grown up now. But everyone knows, like when I come into a room or I come on a call, like I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing. So I just don't feel like I have to worry about it the same way because I know I'm the expert in the room. But it's believing in myself. And it would be easy to question ourselves, especially right now when we're being told, oh, you're a DEI hire. I'm like, well, if we do the blind resume test, I know I'm going to win. So like, let's try. Let's see.
I
And
love it.
again, we all know what we do. We all know what we bring to the table. And sometimes, what did Kendrick tell us? You got to pop out and show them. Like sometimes you just got to do that, and
I
and
love
it
it.
and it's helped me go far. It has. So like I'm worried, but I'm not worried, if that makes
Beautiful.
sense.
No, that's beautiful. I think that that's exactly what people need to hear. It's like there might be this sense of unsettlement that's inside of you or making you feel a little uneasy with what's going on. But like you said, you get those certs, you have those networks, you go to places and you go to work in places where you know that they're going to back up and stand behind you with all of your credentials and all of the things that you've shown up with. And that's beautiful. That's exactly what we need to continue to share with each other. So I appreciate that so much. That was great insight, Ashley. Hakeem, talk to me. Come on now, tell me a little bit about who's inspired you and carried you through some of these changes and disruption and especially the stuff we're facing now.
I think I've been fortunate enough to always have a strong gay community, mostly men, also women, and lesbian community around me, because I've lived in cities that are there. Um, and I think just being a child of immigrants who came to this country, got PhDs, and went back, it's just always been sort of over index on education, and just doing something new, always learning, right? Continuous education, continuous curiosity, like just and a good work ethic.
Mhm.
But I've definitely had key people at certain times in my life who have uh, introduced me to the next role or the next job or the next career. Who have been like, here, let me like give you that handoff and a verified trust verification. Like, here's Hakeem, he's just back from, you know, living in Africa for 5 years. You should really talk to him. And I'm sure he's, right. So, and then also people who, at a new company, there's a very senior manager at Wells Fargo who was like 3 levels up, who was like, let me give you honest feedback on how to deal with these situations, because how you dealt with it was not the most effective way to get to the outcome that you need to get to. So you can adjust it in this way. Um, and those things are very key, right? And I think it's also important because especially when you hear it from a senior gay person or somebody else who's been there and lived through that experience, they're like, hey, you don't have to go through all the nonsense that I had to go through. Here's like an easier way of getting to it. Yeah, and get to the outcome. And then you can still live your truth, right? Like, I got you. But also knowing that, and I definitely followed people in my career where I had somebody flying orbit at like cover, right? If I was in the trenches, like I had somebody doing satellite and like making sure the path was clear. But that was my strategy, right? So I was like, because whether I was a hothead or not a hothead, or like I was able to get course corrected and good navigation on how you should move forward. Now, identifying those people in your life is critical, right? And I think having a good, somebody says everyone needs their internal board of directors, right? You have your friends, your family, your doctor is part of that board of directors, maybe your psychologist too, like your mentor. Like you have to have these sort of, they don't have to know each other, but as long as you're talking to all of them and taking a 360 view of yourself and how you're feeling and what other people are thinking about you, right? Because I have this vision of myself in my head that, like, if I hear it back from 5 other people and they're like, actually, you're wrong. Like, you're being a bit too harsh, or like, you need to and I'm open to that feedback and that constant, I saw constructive criticism, then like I have the ability to course correct. So, and I learned that very young, at young age. So, definitely people who remain unnamed, but they have been angels in my career and guiding me. And people I call like before stressful interviews or stressful situations, who I'm just like, I'm nervous, I don't know how to handle this. Or, somebody got me all tripped up and I'm about to pop out and I don't know if I should. And sometimes they're like, well, you need to put that person back in place. You need to stand up for yourself, or sometimes it's like you need to chill. And sometimes it's just like it's okay. So always, and I'm an extrovert. I like to talk to people. I'm always on the phone. I'm always on calls. So yeah, my advice to people is like, make sure you have that personal board of directors, 5 people in 5 different places who you can do some self-reflection on, and who will give you frank and honest feedback about yourself.
I love it. I love it. So we've talked a little bit about how leaders and mentors and different people in your circle have played a part in your success and in your growth. How would you describe your leadership or mentorship style, Hakeem?
Great question. Um, I first of all like to. I used to be like a dictator, honestly, in my youth. But after a certain time, I was like, let me listen, right? Like 2 ears, one mouth, right? So, um, first of all, meet people where they're at, right? And that requires like 2 or 3 sessions of just straight up listening, nodding, repeating the last 3 words that they said, validating, and getting people comfortable with who you are, especially if you're a strong personality like Rolanda and Ashley and a lot of people. All right. So because and that sort of does 2 things, right? It's just like, okay, I'm definitely going to listen. I'm going to take time to understand. I'm going to play it back to you to make sure that I've interpreted what you said the right way. And then I'm going to make you feel comfortable, and I'm going to try and make you trust me, right? And trust that I'm going to hear you. I'm going to empathize with you. I'm going to feel your feelings before I'm going to come back with some suggestions. That's one. So listening, and active listening, and demonstrating some empathy and not responding. Third, fourth interaction, I'm like, okay, I know the outcome I want to get from that person I'm managing or the situation I'm managing, but I want to dictate the answer. So now what I've learned is just to ask open-ended questions. Okay, well, that's great. How would you go about doing that? What do you think would be a good way to approach that situation? What tools are you using to help you communicate or get like so? And then from physical nonverbal cues, you can steer someone in the direction you want them to go to and make it seem as if that's their own decision, right? So that's how I try to lead. And then I also try to do that by example too. All right. So but I definitely don't like telling people what to do. I like people to figure out a way to solve a situation and the tools. I'd like to have them think about the way to solve things.
I love that. I love that. Helping to walk them to those solutions versus you giving it to them. I love that. Ashley, tell us a little bit about your leadership and mentorship style.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting, right? Because it's kind of a recent thing that I get to do a lot more mentoring, get to do a lot more leadership. But, in the military, I was very much hey, like we're going to talk about this, but I'm not trying to come in here, guns blazing. Like, tell me what tell me what's going on. Or, I always try to just, again, very open door, I think, in that way, because we're all human. We all have stuff that like we're all going through. There's always stuff that people might be encountering that you can't see. So I never make assumptions. I just ask them like, what's going on? And I get my team to be comfortable enough to tell me those things that might be those things in confidence, like, hey, I'm struggling with this, or you know what, hey, got a lot going on at home. And so the next thing I always ask is, how can I best support you? I always start there because it doesn't, we have all figured out, I think, at this point in our lives that like the dictator style of leadership, it just doesn't get it done, right? We all know this. And when I was still coaching martial arts, I'd be a little too hard on my team. And I'm like, hey, y'all, you know what? I messed up. Like, let's revisit this, and now I'm like, I come in with the joy, but like the hammer's there if it needs to be there. You know what I mean? So
You got that double hand, that two-fisted,
yeah,
the joy
like
and the hammer.
yeah, everybody knows. Like I come in, I'm always smiling. I want everyone to be as excited as I am about whatever it is that we're working on. But at the same time, and you've seen me in person. For those of you who haven't, like I'm kind of jacked or whatever. So like everyone kind of knows in the back of their head, like I probably shouldn't make Ashley upset. I'm like, listen, unless it's really bad, I'm not going to get upset. The other thing too is I actually empower my team to do what they need to do. I say, this is what I need done. How can I help you accomplish the task? And if you don't need anything, okay, let me know when it's finished. I just don't micromanage. Like, who has time for that? You know what I mean? And if I have to micromanage you, I'm gonna check in and be like, yo, what's going on? Because I want you to be empowered to lead yourselves. And so trying to empower others is huge. Like I'm definitely like always trying to cheerlead people. They're like, "Oh, I didn't do that good." I'm like, "Hey, it's okay. Like what did you learn from it? What do you think you can do better next time?" Like I'm always kind of in that coaching kind of servant leader, methodology and style. But again, it's because I've been on the other side of not nice managers, really awful coaches, really, kind of just hard asses, right? And I'm like, that just I don't like that. So I treat people the way I want to be treated. Honestly, it's really that simple. And again, when the time comes where you have to kind of lay down the law a little bit, you do it, but you do it in a way that's constructive. You never want to just be like, hey, you're not good at that. Like, why are you like that? And because I've experienced that and I don't like that. So I ask, I'm like, hey, this didn't go the way we thought. Like, what do you think went right? And I always start from what went well. Then I
Mm,
ask for, okay, how can we improve? So I focus on the positive. We talk about the correction. We brainstorm the game plan, and then we just keep moving forward because we're all human. We're gonna make mistakes, but creating an environment where people are willing to at least try, mistake or not, is how you actually get people to step up and really succeed.
I love it. I love that advice. That's beautiful. Love it. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be using some of that. That's awesome. And I think that what I heard from both of you was the empowerment. I heard that out of you, both of you, multiple times. And that's something that Cyversity is it's so near and dear to our organization, is about empowering others to be able to be their best self in cybersecurity. And that was just great advice. I have one more question for you, but I also want to make sure that if others are have a question, that you're preparing your question, because I'm going to turn it over to anybody else who wants to come off of mute in a few minutes here and be able to ask a question. Um, my next question, though, is what advice would you give your younger self or other BPOC aspiring leaders?
Chill out. It's
Chill
gonna
out,
be
chill
okay.
out.
It's and give yourself some grace, right? Especially in the beginning, because we're all always kind of learning, right? Like every day is a new chance to learn and it's a new experience. And so I wish I had given myself the time to be a little more patient, be okay with saying, let me find out more instead of just going like, diving all the way in. Like I think about when I transferred from community college to UC Berkeley, and like I mean, Cal undergrad at that time, it was like the early 2010s. It was kind of weird. And part of me wishes I had taken the time to like go down to UC San Diego or go check out Cal State LA or go check out the HBCUs, because I'm looking at the experiences of other people who look like me and they're a lot more positive. So it's okay to do the research. It's okay to dig a little deep before you make the decision rather than feeling pressured to make the decision right away. And man, would have saved myself a lot of heartache if I just done that a little more in the beginning.
That's great advice. That's great. Hakeem, jump in here.
Party less. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
I spent a
That
lot of
that
time.
part.
I had a very good youth. It was really, really good. Um, no, I think uh, yeah, like my younger self, like enjoy yourself, right? Because now I'm older, I forget to have fun. Like I'm always like very focused on these like outcomes and these business things. And sometimes I'm like, you know what, I need to relax and like just have more fun. I did have a lot of fun as a kid, but I don't think I was as career focused. So maybe just having that balance of like, hey, throughout life, um, uh, yeah, and also a little more into the feelings thing. I'm not a good feelings person. I makes me even weird saying the word feelings. Like I just don't. A lot to unpack there, but we don't need to get into that. But being a little more feeling open.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think balance is you hit the nail on it. I think if you have that balance, it helps with the emotions, it helps with the feelings, all that good stuff. And so I think you've been talking about that. You had a little bit of partying and fun earlier, so now it's like balancing all of that stuff out. But it's great because you have the experience now to bring it all together. So that's beautiful. I want to make sure that we have time. Is there anyone who wants to come off and mute and ask a question of our panelists? I know we have a few that are here. Don't feel
The,
any pressure,
the
but
chat's okay too.
yes, chat is also always good. But definitely feel free. I mean, it's a perfect opportunity while you have these two open and available. If you want to learn more about their experience, especially in the cybersecurity industry.
Hey, my name is Alexandra, and I do have a question.
Yes, go ahead,
I,
Alexandra.
I graduated from university in December, and I got a business degree, but it was a focus in computer information systems and a business cybersecurity certificate. And I'm working toward my CompTIA Security Plus certification. And I was just wondering, I've been trying to apply to jobs, I've been attending meetings, as you've said, with different organizations, but I've been unable to find a job, even entry level, even internship. And I was just wondering if you have any suggestions on how to get my foot in the door. I'm still trying to figure out my niche in cybersecurity. So yeah, just any suggestions on making those connections or finding those positions.
I've got some very sage advice for you. So obviously, I think we're all aware like just how rough this version of the cybersecurity job market is. This is the worst that I have seen it. However, one of the things that I've noticed for the people who are succeeding and getting their foot in the door, again, staying involved, volunteering at conferences, like there's hiring managers and directors and people that you might be volunteering alongside of, and you didn't know that they were like, the senior director at some major company, and now they want to, look out for you. Rolanda talked about networking. Huge. When I needed to leave my second company and I just needed a place to land, I picked up the phone and I called a couple of people that I knew had those connections, and I was able to land another role. The final thing, get that Sec Plus, but know how competitive it is, and make sure that when you're applying, you tailor your resume. Because I know one of the mistakes I made in the beginning, I just kind of had like this standard format resume with just like bullets about like things, right? Like it didn't tell a story about me and my career and like what I was passionate about, because people want to see that. And then here's some secret advice. I recently discovered that when you go to things like B-sides and you go to DEF CON and people know you, I've been out in the wild and I have seen people who remember me from conferences, and they're like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" So like it is an organic kind of thing. Last thing is, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, Alexandra. Happy to continue conversations and kind of keep brainstorming, because it is just the toughest I've seen it. And I want to make sure that I can, again, if it's making an intro for you, I'm happy to do it, because we are all in this together. And sometimes it's knowing the right person who will go out and vouch for you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Alexandra, is that helpful?
Yes, it is. Thank you. And I actually have reached out to you, Ashley, on LinkedIn. So thank you for your input. That is very helpful.
Absolutely. Oh, and you're in Colorado? Girl, I got you. I know so many
I
people up
am.
there.
I would add to that. Well, first of all, Alexandra, I mean, I don't know you, but you sound motivated, driven, and well-spoken and articulate. Right? Those are all good qualities. I would sprinkle some seasoning of hustle and in-person, like in-your-face elevator pitching. Um, uh, +1 to everything that Ashley said. And also look at the startup ecosystem. I don't know what it's like in Colorado, but in the Bay Area, it's sort of here. And then also develop a portfolio of projects. So one differentiating factor that I see is like, hey, it's one thing to have your resume and your certs, but I'm like, what have you built, or what are you building, or like, what are you, if you're volunteering somewhere, like what have you done to secure it? It doesn't have to be a job. It doesn't have to be anything big. It could be a story or a narrative of how, if you're religious or you were in a church or your local bodega, like how you, did a cybersecurity audit, you like change your password, tighten up your Amazon. Like, tell me some things that you've done in the absence of having paid work that demonstrate your ability to be resourceful and find problems, and put a cyber lens to them and solve them. Does that make sense?
That does. And that is, yeah, a very good point about to build my portfolio up, especially in this interim that I'm trying to find work. Thank you.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to talk about yourself. That is the last piece I think I'll tell you. Again, you're doing amazing things, but other people don't know you're doing those amazing things. So the portfolio, and again, just getting out there, is a great way for people to know that you're you. So don't forget that. And that's to everybody. Talk about yourself. We don't do it enough, as women especially. Talk about yourself.
I love it. I love it. Great, great advice. Are there any other questions before we move to our conclusion and I share a little bit of information before we leave? Any other questions? We have time for at least one more.
Pretty please.
It's okay. All righty. Well, I'm going to go ahead and share a little bit of information for you as we're coming to an end here. I want to share with you that Cyversity and United Airlines, we have just launched our Jumpstart. So this is charting a flight path for your cyber career. So we have a cohort that's just opened up and the applications are available to everyone. So feel free to go in, and especially if you have, this is open to members of Cyversity. So if you are interested, then become a member and go ahead and apply. Right now, the window of opportunity is available to you, and this cohort allows you to be able to get some additional certifications. It's going to allow you to connect with others. It's going to build this cohort of people that are going to support you while you're going through this certification, as well as being able to help open you up to potential jobs. Just think about it. If United Airlines is partnered with Cyversity, there's probably a good chance they may need someone to do some work there, or you have an opportunity to volunteer and you can let them know you're going through this program. And so all of that great stuff that's going to help you so much more grow your career. So if you haven't, take a snapshot of this screen, make sure you know that link, all that good stuff. All righty. So I wanted to make sure that you're aware of that, and that you're able to share this with others who maybe aren't members now, but you should send them to cyversity.org, our website, so that they can learn a little bit more about what we're doing and what other things, benefits that they get as a member. But this is also one of them. They have the opportunity to apply to this type of program. Okay. Alrighty, as usual, as you know, this organization can't do what it does without the support and help of everyone. So we ask you, if you have an opportunity to donate, if you are working right now, please make sure you donate. Do those matches at your job, even if they're just matching, a few dollars. It's all helpful, and we do appreciate it. Shared with other organizations that are invested in this, in the work that we do and the mission that we stand behind, and let them know. We would love their support, and it's going to help us to continue to educate folks and take things further. And then also connect with us on social media. This way you can learn a little bit more. This is just one of many events that we have, but we have an opportunity for you to meet with us on Twitter, meet with us on LinkedIn and Instagram, and just talk about what you learned, what you gained, how you met new people, and share. Make sure you tag Cyversity, hashtag Cyversity, so that way people are seeing us across all of the social platforms. We want to make sure that this is something that you get the benefit of, and so do others. So people who couldn't come today, but you want to share with them a little bit about it, this is how they learn more. So please continue to do that great work for us. And with that, I'm going to close. I want to thank everybody who joined us today. Thank you for your time. We really, really appreciate you coming, being here with us, asking great questions, cheering us on as we continue to do this wonderful work. I want to thank my panelists. Ashley, you just always give me a warm part in my heart, because I've known you and I've seen you grow over the years, and it just really, really do appreciate your testimony and your share, giving people that encouragement that you can come from a unique background. Hakeem, you have always been right there, member of Cyversity, always willing to share your story, talking about, what has worked and what hasn't, and leading with positivity and giving people that perspective of how to connect with others and how to help them shine. So I really appreciate everything that you shared as well today. I thank you all for coming and celebrating this beautiful Juneteenth and Pride with us, and we look forward to seeing and talking to you next month. Wonderful. Have a great day.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.